Hello, my name is Alex Floyd. I am currently a cybersecurity instructor and teach the labs at my local college. So if you clicked on this, I would assume that you basically have some type of interest in how Trojans and viruses and what we now consider to just be all-encompassing malware work, and how attackers and malicious actors can actually use these to not only spy on what the victim is doing, but how we can obfuscate it, how we can hide programs inside of malware, and everything else. So hopefully over the next little bit, I can show you a few of those things and I can answer a few of those questions. Now, the first thing we should talk about is, well, what is malware? And basically, malware is just any software that its only design is to cause disruption, to leak private information, to garner unauthorized access to any information or system. But we can also use malware to actually just deprive the user from accessing that information in general. We can implement viruses that make their computer or system completely unusable. So if you will look, right now I'm actually inside of my virtual machine, and I'll be running multiple things. I have my Windows 10, I have a Parrot Security, which is my Linux OS, and we also have two versions of Windows Server. Lower than that, of course, I do have Ubuntu and an Android emulator, but we won't be using those too much inside of this course. For anyone out there who currently is using Linux and maybe is using Kali or any type of Arch Linux that's based on cybersecurity and penetration testing, you should have the necessary tools to perform anything we're about to do. I will not be telling you where to find the live viruses that I'm going to be using, but with a little bit of know-how and a little bit of initiative, any of these tasks can be easily completed in your own home lab, which I must stress, do these in a home lab, do not do these to your active computer. Right now I'm using this sandbox. The sandbox is not bridged to my local network, so everything happening inside of here is very much contained. So, with that being said, one of the first things that I would like to show is how you can actually gain control over a victim machine using the NJ-RAT. Now, RAT, of course, standing for Remote Access Trojan, is just a way to infect the target machine to gain administrative access. RATs help an attacker to remotely access and complete GUI control, which stands for Graphical User Interface. So if you hear me talking about GUI, we're basically talking about what we're looking at here, just the graphical interface. With this, we can actually perform screen capture, we can do camera capture, we can execute code and key logging, do password sniffing, registry management, basically anything malicious that an end user would not like to happen to their machine, we can implement. Now, NJRAT, of course, is something that has been patched with multiple updates to Windows. It's a fairly old resource, but with the Windows 10 machine I will be using here, it is still a very viable way to actually command and control the machine. So with that, I'm going to log into my Windows machine. And if you'll notice, of course, with it being a sandbox, you will not see the full screen. There's really nothing I can do about that, so we'll both just have to kind of get along with what we're given. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that my PC is discoverable. I want to be able to see other computers, and I want other computers to see me. After that, basically all we have to do is we're going to navigate to my folder that I have mapped to all these machines, which just has my CEH tools in it. All of these labs that I'm hopefully going to put out, all mapped to the CEH version 11 practical exam. If you yourself are wanting to study for the CEH, or if you're just interested in any type of penetration testing content, I greatly would urge you to go out, spend the money. You get 6 months to access all of these labs. And if you have a little bit of ingenuity, you can actually download all of these tools for yourself. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to malware threats, scroll up, and basically we're going to go into our Trojan types, and we're going to go to remote access Trojan. Go to our NJRAT, and from here we can go ahead and execute NJRAT. I'll pull this up so we can hopefully see it. I might have to do a little bit down here. We're going to leave the default port as is. We could obviously change it and do whatever type of attack we wanted to. Say if we wanted to attack proxy at 8080, or we wanted to attach it to any type of MySQL if the server was running extensive MySQL, so we could use 1433, we could use 3306, we could attack Postgres at 5432. But for here, we're just going to leave it as is. So I'm going to drag this up. Now you'll notice that my firewall is turned off. All virtual machines right now in this lab will have their firewall turned off. And that's just because with the updates to Windows and Windows Defender, it is kind of, it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible, but it is much more difficult to inject these remote access Trojans and everything else. I could still do it, and I could show you that, but I want this to be as real as possible. So after doing that, we're actually just going to click on this builder, and you'll notice it's going to ask me my host. Right now it's configured as a loopback address, and so all I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to what my lab is actually running, which I'm running on a 10 network. And so right here, this is this Windows machine, this 10.10 network. So I will save this, and I will save it to the desktop. And basically, I'll just name this test.exe. And there we go. You have now successfully basically created a remote access Trojan, which is basically all it takes. This is what most people would consider a script kiddie type of access. It doesn't take a lot of know-how, but from here, I'm actually just going to get in, well, not like that, but I'm going to get into my server. And what I will actually do, let me make one adjustment. Where we save this to the desktop, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm just going to place it right at the bottom of this CEH Tools. The reason why is I actually have this mapped to every other machine. And so when I do click back on my 2016 server, it will just make the implementation of this lab a little bit quicker. I'll just skip a few steps. And so after that, I will also copy it in this lab. And I'm going to paste it to this desktop. And so now I'm basically acting as both the attacker and the victim. So what I would do is I would normally put this inside of a document. I could set this as a batch file to where somebody opens up a Word document or Excel document and it would automatically run in shadow mode. Or, of course, I could just set this as a web server and use things like Zap and make sure that no matter who tries to go to a website, I would be monitoring it. I could set myself as the proxy and I could actually change the web server that they use and the website that they go to execute this. We're not going to do anything that crazy in this. I might post another video about session hijacking, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and execute this. So I'm going to double click there. And after that, it should be running. You do see the toggle wheel is spinning. I am on my laptop, so it might take a second considering I'm running all of these virtual machines, but let's check back. So the first thing you'll notice is we do have an IP address here. It is 10.10.10.16. The user is administrator, and the PC OS that it's running is Server 2016, which also says here, Windows Server 2016 standard. There's no CAM operating, it tells me their ping, and it also tells me what their active window is. So with all of this, we can actually establish a persistent connection. As soon as they run this executable, they're basically locked in. They're basically giving me complete control. There is one way to get rid of this, and they would have to actually go inside of Task Manager, they would have to look for the server executable, and they would have to stop it. So with this, we can do a couple different things, one of which is just right-clicking here, and as you'll see, we can do a lot of stuff. We can automatically attack their NTLM and try to brute force their passwords, but I think the first thing we're going to do is just go to Manager, and we are actually inside of their file manager. And I don't have to explain to you why this is a big deal, why this could be extremely malicious. From here, I could actually just delete their entire operating system. But what we'll do is we'll just kind of click on Program Data for now, and we can see everything that's going on. So from here, this is where we could establish even more persistence. We could set a logon script. So even if an administrator got wise to this, and they did reset the server service, we could just make this run anytime someone logs on. So a lot of manipulation can be done from here. We can also go to Process Manager. And from here, we could kill basically anything we wanted to. So as you see, there's not exactly a lot running right now, but if I was to come back to my server and maybe just run a good Google Chrome tab, we can come back to Windows 10, we can look for our Google Chrome, and we can kill it. So now when we travel back to server, I'm sure whoever the end user is will just be extremely confused on what is happening at this moment. We can also go to connections. Of course, here we're just looking at who they're communicating to, which mostly is just going to be the 10.10.16 network and their loopback. But at the same time, we can kill these connections and make sure that they aren't communicating with anyone we don't want them to. So furthermore, of course, we can go in and we can change their registry. We can do local machine or current user. If we are logged on as administrator, we could easily come in here, change up the administrator's settings, which we come here and we do like a group policy /force, and we could really push some very negative changes throughout the system.